These are the 11 plants that look good in my garden right now. Hey guys, this is Michelle with the Garden Spot, and it is the 1st of September. So I have resigned that basically this is the best that my garden is gonna look for the whole season. So let's see what's going on. The first plant that I wanna show you guys is actually right by my feet. This is Antennaria, and it's one of my all-time garden faves. I've written a few blog posts about it. It's all over my Instagram, and that's because it's just such a great plant. It's durable, it's drought tolerant. I'll throw up on the screen a picture of what this looked like when I just put this walkway in spring, in March, and you'll see that I didn't even use that many plants, and it just filled out really quickly. The dogs play on it, friends came over and were walking on it, and it still looks really great. It does not get any extra water really at all, because I do have water lines in this bed. However, with like the mound going up and over, it means that this gets no extra water. So all it gets is when it rains, and it has held up really great. It's been 90 degrees for the past 3 weeks, still looking awesome. Now, moving to the side, my second plant that I want to show you guys is very, very close by. This, you would think, is an Acer palmatum, but it's actually a cross between Acer palmatum and a Korean maple. There are not a ton of these, and this is the only lace leaf variety. And Joel, if you want to get a little bit closer so they can see, this is the new growth from this year. This is this plant's second year in my garden, and I'm so happy to have found it. You know, I love Japanese maples, but they just do not work in a cold climate like mine. Most Acer palmatums are hardy to zone 5, which I'm zone 5. But my climate is basically the worst thing. Everything that a Japanese maple hates, that's what I got. I got hail, I have a freeze-frost cycle, I have cold, drying winds. They're miserable here. Except for Korean maples can tolerate some of those tough conditions. So this guy obviously is looking really good. It's put on a ton of growth this year. It looks like it's got kind of a bit of a silly habit right now. It's a weeping variety, and I'll just slowly be training it to, you know, maybe not be so Dr. Seuss. And in my garden, everything's so tightly packed in here that I'll be training it up to get really, really tall before I let it sort of weep over. So coming this way, the next thing that I wanted to show you guys is this awesome vine. This is a hyacinth bean vine, and I do not plant a lot of annual vines, not because I don't love them, just because they usually take a lot more water, they take some fertilizer. But this guy is actually pretty drought tolerant. I have not given it any extra water since the spring when I first planted it, and it got some fertilizer. But yeah, so this is just one season of growth, and honestly, this all happened really in the last 6 weeks. It stayed pretty low to the ground, and then as soon as that hot summer heat hit, it just shot right up. And right next to it is actually this Panicum that I think is just amazing. This is also a plant that it's its first year in the ground, and I mean, oh my gosh, I knew it was supposed to be a tall variety. The tag said it should get about 6 to 7 feet tall, but this is, I mean, so I'm 5'3", and so this thing is just about as tall as I am already. And again, first season, and I didn't start with gallon pots either. This is from like a little 4-inch pot. I believe the variety I picked out is Northwind, and I love the steely blue color. I think it just really, really works in this space. Definitely recommend this grass. All right, so moving this way, this white pine has been the biggest investment I've made in my garden. So my garden is pretty young, and this is the most mature tree I bought. I bought this last year. It's its second year in the ground. And I just felt like I needed to make an investment to make the garden look a little bit more mature. And I'm so glad I did. And this tree has been totally trouble-free. It's super drought tolerant. It doesn't mind our cold, drying winds in the winter. It's actually the only pine or the only spruce in my garden that did not get winter burn this year. So that's something to think about if you've got those cold, drying winds. This is a really good option. And I just think it's looking really, really good. I love the cones. I love the habit. It grows mostly straight. It is a weeper. It should get about 30 feet tall, the tag said. We'll see if it gets that tall in my garden. I'm not gonna hold my breath for that. Here's the next plant I wanted to show you. And yes, I am showing you regular old classic autumn joy. I know nobody freaks out over autumn joy. Everybody and their grandma has had it forever, but I love this plant. I think it looks so good right now. I love how airy it is. This is actually one of the oldest plants in my garden. So most of my garden this is either its first season or its second season, except for a thin strip right here, which I started with about 5 years ago. So yeah, this sedum is about 5 years old. It's mature, it's lovely, and I love the structure that it provides in the garden. It's like this big, I don't know, green cloud, especially this time of year when the flower buds are just starting to glow up. I think it's just magic. So you do have to be mindful that these get enough sun. If you do plant them under a tree, make sure the canopy is lifted because they are really susceptible to powdery mildew. But if you live in a dry climate like mine, powdery mildew is not such a big deal. So it is starting to flop a little bit, which is so funny because I was out here yesterday and it wasn't flopping at all. So this is the first year that it's kind of flopped. So I might have to think about just chopping it back in June, and that'll help keep it low and compact. All right, let's go to the back. Okay, this is not what I wanted to show you. This is what I wanted to show you. This is a Japanese red pine, Pinus densiflora, and I freaking love this tree. The variegation is just so good. It's so pretty. It glows in the landscape. We'll see how it does here. You know, I usually don't go for any variety of Japanese pines here just because usually they like a more mild climate like the West Coast or the East Coast of the US, certainly not the middle of the country, but I'm gonna give it a try. Apparently it actually likes our really, really cold winters that can help keep the beautiful variegation. And so far, I can't believe it, but it hasn't burned in the sun. And I mean, some of this variegation is almost white. And I have it in a full sun exposure and it looks just amazing. I do have it hooked up on water. I put all of my new trees into a watering system, so it gets watered twice a week. Unless it rains, then it doesn't get watered. And I definitely recommend that you do that no matter how drought tolerant a plant will be when it matures. When they're little like this, especially conifers, you know, they're not inexpensive. So you do want to protect your investment and yeah, just make sure to keep them moist at least the first year, if not the first two. All right, moving on. Oh, actually, no. Let's check out the Blue Gumby cactus. I almost forgot about it. So this right here is my Blue Gumby cactus. I'll throw the botanical name up on the screen. It is one of my favorites. Oh my gosh, I just love this plant. So I used to think that the only cactus that would grow here was like a prickly pear, and boy was I wrong. So I started doing research into it in the spring, and I found this awesome grower, coldhardycactus.com, and this, like, they don't know who I am, but I just think that they do such an awesome job that I wanted to tell everybody. I tell everybody and anybody about it who's interested in succulents or cacti, because dang, they have an incredible selection, and this one I thought was just the coolest of them all. It's like, I hope the color comes through on the video. It's just this really steely blue, powdery blue. It's got really tiny little needles. And then look at all of this growth. This is just from a single year, just this year. It looks amazing. So, you know, we'll see how it winters over, but I am really optimistic that it's gonna make it. I sure hope so. But yeah, I really like it. This variety is called Blue Gumby. They have a ton. It should have these really soft pink blooms. I don't know how long it'll take for it to actually bloom though. It's obviously not mature enough yet, but hopefully it will be soon. Okay. So this is a part of my garden that is not looking amazing. This is this garden's first year, and boy, I have some notes for myself for next year. But one plant that has been really, really great in this space this year is this Coreopsis. This is a perennial variety of Coreopsis, and it has been blooming since I planted it, and I planted it out in late May. And it's still just going strong. It's just this really pretty soft yellow, which I'm usually not a big fan of yellow, but I think it looks really, really nice in this dark, shady corner full of blues and purples, especially next to this Japanese maple. I know I just said that there aren't very many Japanese maples that will survive in my zone. I'm not holding out hope for this guy. This is its second year. We'll see how it does, but I don't expect it to live past 5 years. But it looks great for now. I'm sure having fun with it. But anyways, yeah, so this Coreopsis has just really performed well. So well, in fact, that I'm gonna collect seeds from it this fall, and I'm gonna grow some more of it in my garage this year. So maybe you can join me for that as well. If you follow me on Instagram, then you are very familiar with this corner of the garden. It is one of my favorites. It's just looking really good this year. Everything is coming together. The colors are really working for me. The blues and the purples are really nice with this very, very pale yellow of, this kind of, I guess this plant is starting to die, but this is a California poppy that I grew from seed. I have kind of like a pinky and pale yellow California poppy that I've been just like selectively collecting seeds from for the past few years just to get some colors that I like. But that is not what I wanted to show you. So one of the plants in this corner that I want to talk about is this beautiful Picea pungens. This is the weeping variety. I forget what it's called, the classic one. And it's just such a pretty blue. If you can grow blue spruce in your area, I definitely recommend putting a few in the landscape. I just love that color. It's going to be a slow grower. It's, maybe 5 inches a year or so, which is great in a small space like mine. And then right in front of it is a lavender that I cannot believe. I took cuttings from a lavender plant over the winter, grew them on in the garage, and I did not expect the cuttings to do much of anything their first year in the ground. Look at this thing. It's huge. Oh my gosh. And it looks great. I am just so happy with it. Yeah, go lavender. I'm going to take more cuttings from it and put some more out here because it's just been so fun to have in the landscape. They're drought tolerant. They're hardy to zone 5, or most are. You should definitely check the tag. And yeah, the color is great. The smell is great. They have really nice movement. I'm a big fan. And then right next to this lavender is one of my favorite little trees. So this is a Japanese black pine, and this is its first year in the landscape. This is a miniature, and so I'm hoping that because it's not going to grow very tall, my theory is that with it being closer to the ground, it's going to be more sheltered and more protected from our terrible winters and super hot summers. So I'm hoping that it'll live a very, very long life in this garden, despite it maybe not being its ideal climate. Check out how it's going to grow. So you can see where it's putting on these candles. So this thing is just going to be a very odd shape. All right, so there's another sedum here that I want to talk to you guys about, and it is this sedum album. Yeah, it's just a plain green sedum. Who cares? But this plant has been just amazing this year. I mean, look at how healthy and lush it looks. It's definitely ready for me to transplant in some more places around the garden. You can tell that it's getting a little bit, not really leggy, but it's just ready. It's sprouting roots all the way up and around. You can kind of check that out, which means that it's ready to find a new home. So transplanting it is just about that easy. And this variety is called coral carpet. It gets its name because supposedly, this is my first year growing it, but supposedly once it starts to get a little bit colder at night, this is gonna get a beautiful red glow to it. So I'll definitely keep you guys in the loop about how this turns out. All right, well, that's it for me at the garden spot. I hope that you saw a plant that maybe you've never seen before or got inspired to try growing it yourself. And I hope you guys find some time to get out in your garden this weekend.